Modrožluté logo IKEA zná každý Čech, největší maloobchodní prodejce nábytku na tuzemském trhu ale čelí kritice. Proč mají Češi tytéž produkty dražší než třeba Němci? Na tohle i mnohé další bude v dnešních hráčích odpovídat David McCabe, generální ředitel IKEA pro region Česka, Slovenska a Maďarska. Rozhovor povedeme v angličtině a pokud si ho chcete pustit z titulky, najdete ho na webu blesk.cz. It's nice to have you here.
Lovely to be here.
You became country retail manager over 2 years ago. What have you learned about the Central European customer?
A lot. It's been fascinating. It's not a region that I've had the pleasure to live in before. In my area of responsibility, we work with the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, and I've spent lots of time visiting all three countries, obviously living in Prague. But I think that for me, this is our business at IKEA, to understand people, to really understand people's lives at home, their needs, their dreams, their frustrations. So it's been great to spend time in people's homes, asking them about those things and what they really want, and to really dig into how we can help. So that's really fundamental in what we do. I think.
And what's different compared to, for example, the UK, where you come from?
I think that what we've seen, particularly in recent years, is that our reports and our visits in people's homes have actually shown there's a lot more similarities than differences, especially after COVID and the fact that people spent more time in their home than ever. So, for example, issues like living in smaller spaces or issues to find a new variety of storage solutions. They're with everyone, regardless of UK or the Czech Republic. I think some of the things that have become a little newer in recent years are things like the need to multitask at home. You know, COVID really...
Home offices.
Yeah, exactly. You know, a dining table was once where you ate, but now it's a school, it's an office, etc., etc. So we've been really trying to help people with those changing needs over time.
And what about tastes, for example? Are Czechs minimalists, or do they prefer something more ornamental when they decorate their homes? What's your experience?
I think that Czechs generally are looking for practical, functional, well-designed products at a good price. I think that that's why IKEA has been able to be so popular over the years here in the Czech Republic, because it marries very closely to our business idea, what we're trying to provide. I think perhaps some of the things that have accelerated in recent times is that need for value for money. We have seen that this requirement to have both the quality and the price has accelerated, especially as the economic conditions have become more pressing, cost of living has become more expensive. So it links very closely into what we're trying to provide here in this region.
Have you managed to marry the two? Because before we started recording, one of the colleagues who work in the studio said that he had recently ordered an IKEA wardrobe, and he said that where formerly there used to be metal, it's plastic, that wood is no longer of the same quality. What can you say to this?
The good thing is that in our design principles, many years ago, we established a very clear set of, I should call it, rules in the way we design our products. And there's certain areas that we're just non-compromising. So, for example, I mean, you take it for granted that it should look great and the design should be something that you recognize as IKEA, should be functional. I think we're known for that as well. But quality is one of those areas where we don't compromise. What your colleague might have noticed is that we're always looking to innovate the way we design the products and the way that we build the products, and that is ever changing. We're trying to find new technology, new materials, new ways of manufacturing to be able to give that same level of quality but at a lower price, and that's where you see some of those changes.
Is it the same level of quality though, some of the things that I have just mentioned? The quality expectations on an IKEA product, particularly if I think you mentioned storage there, it's uncompromising. Our testing is very, very rigorous. I've had the opportunity to see it, in many of our factories around the world. And the solutions, as they change, we have almost higher expectations on the quality level, because we know that people, they want to love the product today, but they want to continue to use it into the future, and it can't be something that doesn't last. Do you have data on durability of your products? For example, when an architect builds a bridge, usually the bridge is supposed to last about 100 years. That's a worldwide expectation. What's an expectation for an IKEA wardrobe or an IKEA bed?
I mean, and
I'm not talking about it going out of style. I'm saying, like, how long can it last when used on a daily basis?
I mean, the simple answer is a lifetime.
My colleagues in IKEA of Sweden, they're responsible for the design of the range. They have extremely clear expectations on how many times you should be able to roll on a mattress, etc., without any change to the quality and the touch and feel. More kind of anecdotally, what I've really loved to see is when I do these home visits, how many times you see a piece of IKEA furniture, maybe a bookcase or a bed, and when you talk to the family, they've had it for 30, 40 years. It's really quite touching to see how long these products last in people's homes. The other area where it's become very evident recently is we've introduced new services that allow us to extend the life of products. And one of the things that we do now is take back people's old IKEA furniture and resell it. So rather than, if your living situation changes and you don't need that children's furniture anymore, or maybe kids move out or whatever, why throw it away? We can help to find a new family that can continue to love it into the years in front. And sometimes when I go into the store, I'm quite, it's like a walk down memory lane when you see these products being returned, because you remember when we used to sell them and now they're here again and they look just as good as new.
Who buys them? Like low-income households?
It's definitely something that we see as a new alternative, a new cost option for people. So sometimes maybe the budget doesn't stretch to everything they want, and these previously loved products can be a lower cost alternative.
So if I have a Sundvik children's bed, which I do own, and I bought it for approximately 5,000 crowns, and I return it to you in about a year, and it's kind of battered and maybe there are some scratches, how much money can I get?
Well, that would depend on each product, of course, but you can get in contact with the store and they'll give you a set amount of money, and then when you come back, you receive that. We actually have guarantee buyback on children's furniture. So we will take that back, because we do understand that.
So you take everything?
Yeah, I mean, with obviously, if it's just a pile of wood that once represented a product, then maybe not. But within common sense reason, we it's in our interest. We actually realised, you mentioned at the beginning, some of the things that I've learned. We realised a couple of years ago that we just didn't know enough about this space. We didn't really understand enough about what's happening with the products in the long term. So we conducted a big study here in the region. It was the first of its kind to try to understand this topic. And we discovered that in 1 year, 2022, Czechs threw away around 350,000 tons of furniture, which is kind of
nondescript furniture, not
general furniture, which, I mean, it's the equivalent of roughly every single Czech person in the country throwing away an armchair every year, if you put it in that type of perspective. And obviously that's not good for anyone, because many of these products can be reused, they can continue to live, and unfortunately they were going into the trash. So we've really been working on how can we have lots of different areas to support that products can be firstly refreshed, maybe it's new textiles, or you need some spare parts, maybe renewed if there's some things we can do. But in the case of this service, to be able to bring it back and provide it to a new family, that for us is a win-win.
Did you say 350,000 tons of
350,000 tons, yeah.
Is that per capita more than in some other countries that we can compare it to?
I think that we were quite on the forefront of that study. So,
why do you think that is? Do you think Czechs are not as interested in sustainability and like giving products new life as in other countries?
No, I think that, and sorry, when I said that the study, what I meant to say is we've conducted this extensive study, maybe some other countries haven't yet, so there's not a direct comparison.
Obviously, yes.
I would say that a couple of things. One is that for sure Czechs are interested in what they can do to live more sustainably, to recycle, to reuse. I think it's the same as in many countries, that a lot of people don't understand how. They don't understand the options. So you have this desire to do something, but then perhaps not the knowledge or the means to execute it. What we found is when we make these options available, people are extremely interested.
To breach, quite a difficult subject. Czech customers not so long ago felt a bit cheated when all the price comparisons started coming out. They couldn't understand why the same piece of furniture was more expensive for them than it was for the Germans, for example, especially because of the purchasing power being so different between the two countries. Did you understand this frustration?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's affordability, if we would call it that, the need to make our products affordable for the many people. This is at the core of everything we do. It's, you could say like it's kind of like our IKEA DNA to be affordable. It has been for the last 80 years and it will be for the next 80 years. But we know in these times it's more important than ever. You know, the economic situation is very challenging. The cost of living pressures are perhaps like, you know, certainly no recent years. So the need to be affordable, the need to offer that price point, we share that view with the Czech customers. It must be like that.
Do you feel as though the company did a good job explaining why these prices were so different for different countries?
I mean, the way that we price at IKEA, we don't have one central price for our products. We price independently in each country.
Why, when we have a single EU market? It would feel like a no-brainer for all the prices to be the same.
It's a good question. There's two perhaps main factors. The first is that every country has different operational costs, if we would say it that way. So the infrastructure, warehousing, transportation, the cost of salaries, etc. That's a big difference.
Which would make me think that those would all be higher in Germany.
Yeah, perhaps in Germany in that case. And then we have another big factor, which is obviously the market conditions themselves. Taxes, exchange rates, the size of the market. Competition, exactly. And all of these things affect purchase power. You've already mentioned another great example. So these things all affect the pricing points for each country. The thing that is the same, and this from talking with my colleagues all around the world, I hear again and again, is that the mission to be affordable remains the same. So we're trying to keep the prices as low as possible. We do recognise, I mean, this has been a very turbulent period with COVID and then the war in Ukraine. It's had a massive impact on supply chain stability and has impacted the prices for sure. But if I was saying in the Czech Republic, we listen to the customers. We have it as our number one priority from a business perspective. So I would say that there's nothing we've worked as hard on in the last year as this topic. Regionally, like in the country itself, our co-workers have been looking for every single opportunity to create efficiency, to lower cost from big projects like switching from gas to solar, but also those small changes we can make in our logistics operations. All of that was designed to give us the prerequisites to lower the prices for our customers. We have seen supply chain optimization. It has improved. So everything from the products, the material sourcing to the manufacturing to the transportation, our supply chain colleagues have done a magnificent job to look for every opportunity. And again, all with that mindset that every saving we can find goes directly to the customer. And then the last thing I would say that in the example of the business, the market conditions in the Czech Republic, we have had some, favorable economic development with commodity pricing and exchange rates and things. So the good thing about all of that effort and the situation that we were in is that in the last couple of months, we've made the single biggest investment in lowering prices that I've experienced in my 25 years.
Thousands and thousands of products.
Yeah, it's about 5,700 articles, which to put it in perspective is over half the range. And we knew we needed to make a change of that scale because, of course, we needed to have that low price represented across all of our categories of products. It wasn't enough just to have a few articles in certain areas that were lower. We needed to have it across the whole home. And secondly, we needed to readdress some of that balance that you've recognised there.
Yes. Now, according to the comparison of the economic magazine E15, whereas in the past Germans would save up to 11% when compared with the Czechs, now the Czechs save up to 7% when compared to the Germans. So it's a very significant shift.
Exactly. And it's...
Will you continue to lower price points, or is this the maximum that you are capable of at this point?
No, we don't stop the efforts. I mean, as I say, I mean, it's a long-term objective for us. This is really, in our firepower at IKEA, we know how important this is, but the conditions that people are facing today and the need to be more affordable means that I would say, if anything, that we're
trying even harder now to continue. I mean, of course, we don't speculate on individual price changes, but I would say that I'm very optimistic about that. This is a continued journey of price.
So if it's 5,000, what did you say, 700 products up to now, how many more? Well, hundreds or thousands lower prices can we look forward to?
That's always the question. I mean, we have a range of around 10,000 articles, so we have some space left, but we'll continue to look across all areas of the home. So we know that, you know, one or two products is not enough, so we need to continue to push forward.
Now, obviously, it seems as though this huge shift in prices was only possible because of the huge amount of criticism that you got. So my question is, why didn't you do this before? Or why was there even such a disparity between Germany and the Czech Republic?
I understand that question and why someone would ask that. That's entirely reasonable. I think that if I split the two parts, why there was such a difference is because of these conditions, and they've been in place for many years. This isn't something that happened in the last couple of months. I think it's just perhaps a little bit more pressing when cost of living creates such pressures on people's wallets. So we were dealing with these situations in both directions for many years. Our work started, our work's always been there because that's our agenda. But if I would say this additional layer of energy, effort, of leadership that was required to make this change, it wasn't due to the criticism. It started way before. I mean, as you can imagine, some of these things take some time to be able to be realised, especially supply chain movements. So this was happening as prices were going up in the first place. It just takes that long to come down. Now, that's not the same thing as saying I don't understand why people had this question. Of course, they had that question, but I think, well, I know I can say that we had that question first because that wasn't right for us. We needed to make this change.
So when economists in the Czech media started coming out and saying IKEA or DM or any other of these chains that have lower price points in Germany than in the Czech Republic are doing this because the Czechs keep buying these things at a more expensive price, what do you say to that?
That wasn't the reality for us.
It wasn't supply and demand.
No, for us it was the market conditions we were facing in the three countries that we're responsible for, including the Czech Republic, and that resulted in the price point that we had. I would say that any kind of input around our price comparisons or the view, it just really served for us as multiple further confirmations of the direction we were already heading in. So I'm not going to say that, if someone says that you need to be more affordable, that I'm going to disagree, because I do agree. That's why we've done what we've done, and that's why it's resulted in this unprecedented change. It's, I think sometimes it can be difficult to convey that. And if you're looking at individual price points, then I understand. But the sheer level of this change is unprecedented. And I don't mean like a little bit more than what's happened in the past. This is something that I've never experienced in the scale of this change.
Has IKEA experienced such a shift in any other countries where it operates, or Inca Group, sorry?
Yeah, no, I can say that the Czech Republic has by far the highest investment in low-end prices of any Inca country.
Why?
I think because...
Why are we so lucky, or perhaps previously unlucky, whatever you want to call it?
I think it's a combination of everything we've been discussing. It's the hard work that's gone into the optimization, both on regional level and in the supply chain. It's because of the clear strategy that this is what we must do in this market. It was confirmed by the feedback our customers were giving us. So it's many, many, many things that have come together that allowed us to do this. And I'm super proud we could. I mean, it's needed for our customers, it's needed for our business, and it is who we are. It is IKEA. So it's what needed to be done.
Why can't I find an item that I want to buy? I find it online. I see that in Poland, it's several thousand cheaper than the Czech Republic. Why can't I order it in Poland and have it shipped here?
We don't operate cross-border that way.
I know you don't.
Between retail, we just don't have we don't have the setup for it. and
you could outsource it.
We expect us to be the experts in providing the product to you. So I would hope now if you check for that same product, you'll see that it's cheaper here. And then, we
not all of them, some.
Yeah.
And then if I buy a product in Poland, if I drive to Poland and buy that particular product, I can't return it in case I open the flat pack at home and I find out that it's damaged. I can't return it here. I would have to drive back to Poland or Germany or whichever other country.
That is the case.
It feels like you're trying to segregate the customers. It feels like you're trying to prevent us from buying cross-border. Is that a speculation or is it a strategy?
It's not a strategy. Our objective in each country, I'm sure I can, my colleagues would say the same, is we want the Czech Republic to be the best place for Czechs to shop at IKEA. And it's for the reasons you've said. It's, ease of purchase, the services, the language, the design and planning options that we have.
But if I'm only interested in the price?
If you're only interested in the price, and I of course would always rather that you still had the IKEA product, but like I say, I think you'll find very, very few examples of that now. So that's why the price is so important. It all comes together, right? It's the experience, it's the services, it's the options, it's the ease of return, everything. And for us, that's why we do this. We want to make it so that it's not even a question for someone living in the Czech Republic that they wouldn't shop with IKEA Czech Republic. It should just be one.
But it still could be a question. There still are some items that are differently priced. So
yeah, and there will continue to be. We won't have this set pricing. No, I don't think so. For the reasons I've said, I don't think it's practical. It just wouldn't. Even in North America, it's the same. Between Canada and the US, the conditions can fluctuate so much that
and the cross-border shopping that I was just talking about, although we are in a single market, that is also not a change that is in IKEA or Inca Group's future.
No, we don't have an immediate strategy to make all services that you find in one country available to the other through the same systems. As far as I'm aware, that's not a discussion. Because again, it takes away energy from what really is the main task. The main task is that if you live in the Czech Republic, you should have everything you need in IKEA.
I was quoting an analysis by E15. They analyzed the prices of over 17,000 products, and the only category in which the prices grew, according to this analysis, was food and beverages. Mm-hmm. Why?
I think food is it fluctuates even more quickly, of course, than home furnishing due to the nature of the supply chain with food. But we would have the same exact mindset with the food range. We know that our food range is and has been competitive and at a price that our customers appreciate. There was less of an issue there, but it doesn't stop the journey of analysing where we can bring prices down, finding opportunities in the supply chain.
So there's still hope for a 20-crown hot dog.
Yeah, it's why not? Let's.
How much is it now? 25 or something?
Well,
it changes so fast.
Yeah, the good thing is that with the hot dog, I don't know if you've seen recently, we've been able to introduce a plant-based version of the hot dog and introduce it at the same price. So that's also part of our consideration here, that we want to bring new options for our customers, particularly those that want that plant-based diet, but do that at the single price point. So there's lots of factors there, but we know how important our food offer is for our customers.
Going to IKEA solely to get lunch with absolutely no consideration of buying anything else, is that a typically Czech thing, or does that happen in other countries that you've worked in?
The interesting thing is that it's pretty much around the world that we do see stores where we have higher visitation to our restaurants than the rest of the IKEA store. So some people will come to IKEA more often for food than they do to shop for furniture. And
is it still profitable?
Yes, in our region it is. Yeah. Again, I can speak for that. It's a value-adding part of our business, but we all, as you mentioned, the price point there is so important because we want it to be something that people are attractive to come to our stores, especially the stores that perhaps you have to get in the car to come to visit. The food offering,
and then they buy something, right?
That would also be that would be good for us. But we know that people come for lunch. And we want them to. And it's a massive progression from where we were many years ago, because the restaurant was introduced in IKEA in the 50s. And it speaks to this kind of understanding the customer, because our founder, Ingvar Kamprad, he was a big believer in if you need information, maybe the multiple surveys and things are not the way to go, just talk to people. And he was talking to a couple in the parking lot of his first store. And he asked, why are you leaving so quickly? He noticed that they hadn't really spent very much time there. And they said, well, it's pretty difficult to shop on an empty stomach. And that was how the restaurant was born. And now we have 700 million visitors to the restaurant. So it's been one of the good stories of the development of the IKEA concept, and now how important it is to everything that we do.
It's a concept that several furniture stores basically copy.
Yeah, we have.
Do you know how many meatballs you have already eaten in your lifetime?
Me?
Because you said that that's your, before we started recording, you said that's your favorite meal at the IKEA restaurant.
It's the favorite one today. I probably would have maybe one different if you asked me in a couple of months. But I've had the pleasure of having many meatballs over the years, especially now when we have this kind of extended range, because for many years it used to just be the meatball. Now we have the chicken meatball, the vegetarian, the plant ball, so there's even more options.
So you eat there very regularly?
Yeah, well, I would eat in the IKEA store whenever I'm in an IKEA store in our central office there, yeah.
IKEA hasn't only been in the news because of the prices. You were also chosen to equip a significant part of the presidential villa near the Prague Castle. What was your reaction when you first heard that the presidential couple are considering your company, or more precisely your brand, for the task?
I mean, of course, we were delighted. It was fantastic news to hear that the president was considering IKEA, especially as it wasn't anything that was proactive from our side. It was very much just their choice.
You heard it when we heard it.
We heard it when they said that they wanted to choose IKEA, so it was great. I mean, for me, I think that speaks so highly to the connection to our overall vision. I mean, we're there to help the many people create a better everyday life. And we know that regardless of your living situation, beautiful products at a good price is attractive. So it's great. It's a confirmation for me to hear that it's relevant for someone with perhaps a modest home, but also if you live in a presidential residence. So we were super happy, yeah.
Or was it a play at modesty? Because when we found out quite recently that they didn't use as much of IKEA products as was previously said. They were supposed to have an IKEA kitchen. That seems to not have happened. Do you have any info?
No info on any changes to the original ambition. If they need some help in making sure that is the right kitchen, then we can of course help them, because maybe they have some questions. But no, from our understanding, that the things that they originally talked about is what they're going for, but maybe you have new information.
What was the communication like with the Prague Castle? Did they come after closing hours to peruse, the president himself and his wife, to look at the layouts? And
I mean, we believe very much in the empowerment of our local leaders. So it's actually our fantastic store in Zličín that took all of the communication, supported them. Once they established that they wanted to shop with IKEA, they were there giving them the support they needed. So it was.
So the president went into the store and looked at things.
I'm not sure if he went to the store, but I think at least we hope he had a connection to what he wanted, and then maybe some other people came along and picked it up.
So can you tell us the extent of how much of your furniture was used in the end?
That I don't know, but now you've asked the question, I will now go and find out if there was maybe some things that they were interested in that they didn't use, because that's good information for us.
Does the King of Sweden have IKEA furniture in his palace?
I would hope so.
I know he's a big supporter. He goes to anniversary celebrations, and he definitely pioneers the company. Yeah,
we work extensively with the Swedish government in embassy locations, and of course in the home country in Sweden. So there's always IKEA products, especially when we do events and celebrations throughout the year. But the King of Sweden. They've been very active in IKEA over the years, of course. There's a very strong connection. In fact, when we opened our first store in Budapest, in Hungary, the King of Sweden was present for the opening. So there is this IKEA connection. It's
what nice. About the British royals? I remember that there was an article saying that his, I guess, former Royal Highness Prince Harry, I really don't know the correct title right now, when they were moving out they were shocked to discover that they only had IKEA furniture, whereas his brother had all this like luxurious furniture. Is there any reaction to this?
I think it just reinforces, as I say, I mean, that we have a place in the modest home, but we also have a place in a royal's home. I mean, I find it lovely, and I think it's a lovely reinforcement of what we're trying to do, and then how that's appreciated by people coming from all different backgrounds.
Do you have IKEA furnishings at home?
Yeah.
Is everything IKEA?
I won't say that 100% is. I always like to have a few pieces that maybe I pick up locally, but of course, I mean, you would see something that looks like an IKEA room set in my house for sure.
Do you feel comfortable that way?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's it's always a choice, right? You know, I still make the choice as everyone else does, and I choose IKEA because I want it, not because I have to have it.
There's a scene in Fight Club, maybe you've seen it.
I've seen the film.
And like they use IKEA furniture that the main character uses for his entire apartment as a metaphor for some kind of emptiness, hollowness of the, I guess, life working in a corporation, living in a big city, everything being the same. How does that make you feel to represent a brand that can be criticized like this?
I think it's important that that's not the reality of IKEA. We have, we have a set range, 10,000 articles, and they're designed by the principles that we've already talked about. But we have a lot of vitality, a lot of change in our range over the year. We change up to, between 25% and a third of our range every year. So if you come summer, spring, or winter, you'll see new IKEA products, new solutions, the newest designs. So I hope that that's not a reality for most people, that it's just the same. I hope it's something that they can experience that's different and is, for them.
So calling it the fast food of furniture or something like that, you don't think that's accurate?
No, I don't. And I don't because of, in the 90s, we established a clear principle of design, and every single IKEA product literally must adhere to those design principles. And one of the things that's super interesting about the way we design products is we start with the price. That's very different perhaps than other companies where, the design work happens and then you price the product. We start with the price point. We need to have a table for this. Ingvar, he always said that anyone can design a table for 2,000 euros. The real skill is to do it for 200. So the principle starts like that, and then the products must go through these criteria. So quite simply put, our products are not fast food. They're built to last.
According to the Business Insider, and you also said that, the IKEA range includes over 10,000 products, 25% of which are cycled out year to year. How are these decisions made? Is it simply that something doesn't sell, or is there more to the process?
I think there's
discontinuing things.
A little more. I mean, of course, there's always something that we're really excited about that doesn't sell as well as we thought. That can happen, as with all retail businesses. But I think it's closer to making sure that we have product that represent the needs of today. Like we used the example of the multi-functional room. Maybe we need to have some products that have even more functionality than the previous one did. So that is introduced, and then the other product leaves because this one now is more relevant for today's market.
Is there something that you introduced for the Czech market and were really excited about and it didn't work?
Let me think. That's a good question. I think since I've been in the Czech market, the new products coming through have been really great, and they've been really well received, because we have products that, like you mentioned, that 25% of the range changing permanently, and that can be brand new products, things we've never sold before. Like, for example, we've introduced a new kind of best-selling family Tonstad that's coming into the range now. It's beautiful, multifunctional. You can create these varieties of solutions. It has new technology that we've never had before, which I'm excited about. Those type of families, I would be extremely surprised if they don't sell because of the work that goes into the design. But it's also about updating some old love products from the past, like our Billy bookcase. So that's been in the range more than 40 years. And it's crazy how people still love it as much as they did in the 70s, but they do. And that's another one of those examples we were discussing earlier on, where I see those products from the 70s and 80s and they're still fine. But even a product like that, we want to make sure it's up to date and it's relevant. So next year we'll have a new Billy that's new material. And again, a step up in terms of material. It's more sustainable in its production. It will be more affordable. And what our customers have asked us for a lot is it'll be easier to disassemble. So you can build it, but you can also kind of re-flat pack it when you need to move home.
That was one of my questions, because we conducted a bit of a survey on Facebook, and a lot of people said that IKEA furniture is too difficult for them to assemble. Are you working to simplify this?
Absolutely. That's another example where you mentioned your colleague earlier on had noticed some design changes.
Yes.
Could very well be for that exact reason, to make it easier to assemble and easier to disassemble. We have our PAX wardrobe system. It's what you would use in the bedroom.
Could be exactly the thing that he bought.
It could maybe. And that now you can, I mean, it used to take a little while to assemble. Now it's 15 minutes. It's much easier. And also to disassemble, which that's, again, a huge thing for people, especially people maybe renting, who want to invest in a piece of furniture, but then want to be able to take it with them to the next location.
I heard that assembling, or like a DIY approach to assembling furniture, is one of IKEA's basically secrets of success, because especially men feel a pride in the fact that they assembled a particular table or a particular wardrobe themselves. Do you feel that same pride when you assemble something?
I have to say I do, and I hear that a lot. Because obviously there's, you know, again, the flat pack concept was introduced at IKEA in the 50s. It's not a new thing. Ingvar was frustrated by, you know, the cost of transportation of some bigger products and like how many were getting damaged. So it was the kind of legs off the table, flat pack was the first version, and then it's gone from there. But it's done two things. I mean, one thing, it's obviously allowed us to keep our costs low, or prices low to our customers, which is much appreciated. But I hear that a lot, that kind of sense of it's quite fulfilling.
I almost made it.
to put it all together. But I assemble everything that I buy from IKEA, and always have. I mean, it's part of
What's your success rate?
Finishing, 100%.
100%.
Yes.
Another thing that this article about IKEA's secret to success mentioned was the maze-like layout of the stores, where small and well-priced objects are available and boxes are always at hand and turn us into unfocused impulse buyers. Do you have any research on what portion of your sales is impulse-based?
Yeah, it varies. It can be it can be more in certain situations and certain store types. We know that, obviously, you know, if you drive to an IKEA store and you already have the intention of purchasing, that's going to be much more planned. In a city centre location, then you're just popping in and there's going to be more impulse. So it does vary, but our job is to inspire people. I mean, if we've put all of the effort into understanding people's lives, what they want, what their dreams are, what they don't want, what they want to change, our role is simply that when you come to the store, you should see that reflected. You should see your life, your challenge, your dream in the store.
So is it 25%?
It can be 30%.
And around Christmas, does that grow because we are approaching Christmas?
That can be also the case. Seasonality does affect it. It's also, you know, how much you see that reflects what your challenges are today. If it's something that, you know, if you come to the IKEA store and you need a bookcase, but then we're able to show you a new solution for storing food, then there's a higher level of impulse in that sense.
Or I'm just having a bad day and I see a reasonably priced candle and I think that that's going to make my life better.
Well, I would hope it would, yeah. Especially if it smells nice, right?
There are 4 IKEA stores in the Czech Republic. In 2017, your predecessor said that there were plans to open 3 more in Plzeň, Hradec Králové, and a 3rd store in Prague. Is this going to happen at any point?
Well, for us, I mean...
Are you working on it?
We're always working on it, for sure. And quite simply, that's because we see that retail is changing. The journey that our customers take in is changing. It's becoming more complex. It's becoming more multifaceted. I mean, for example, it's not uncommon now that someone will start their journey online, start to look at what type of solutions they want. Then they'll come to the store to test and try and feel and have that more tactile approach, see the inspiration, as you've already mentioned, get some new ideas, and importantly, talk to our co-workers who have the knowledge and can help them with the solution. But then, different from the past, they may go home and complete that purchase sitting on the sofa or in one of our smaller touch points. So we need to be extremely close to that need, and obviously our ambition is to be as much mirroring that customer need as possible, and to be as close as we can to our customers. So it's
so yes, you are planning to open more stores.
We're planning, and we have. I think that what's changed perhaps is that in the past, when we talked about only the bigger format IKEA stores, now we're looking across all of the options that we have to meet that criteria, to be there for our customers. So, for example, we've radically increased the number of pickup locations in the Czech Republic.
There are over 20?
Over 30 now, I think. 30? It keeps growing. So that gives a much more low-cost, efficient and easy option. If you bought something online, you can pick it up closer to your home. We've introduced what we've called a planning studio, and you mentioned Hradec Králové there in that location, also Olomouc, Česky Budějovice. That's just happened this year, where it's a smaller part of our range where you can touch and feel and be inspired. But I think the main point is it allows our customers to meet with our co-workers, especially when you're planning perhaps some slightly more complex ranges like kitchens. Mm-hmm. It's been very, very much appreciated. Still very early, but our customers seem to love that. But we do still explore the options for more traditional stores. You mentioned Prague. That is still very much. We're optimistic, and we see a high potential in an area such as that for obvious reasons. I mean, it's a fantastic retail market.
And what's the timeline?
Yeah, that's always going to be the difficult thing for an IKEA person to answer, and will be for me, because, as I say, the 30 years ago when it was cash and carry, that's how most people bought furniture. It's been such a big change. So we need to understand the entire picture and make sure we show up in the right locations. But in my experience at IKEA is when we go quite quick.
So that means maybe in 2 years, 3 years, we can expect another large scale IKEA in the Czech Republic?
I would say that there is definitely potential for that. Whether it's 2 or 3 years, I think it's too early in the process. I think we're very much, in that sense, for the large-scale units, we are still in an exploration phase. But yeah, I mean, I would always hope that we're able to do that as soon as possible, of course, as you can imagine.
Is there any know-how that is country-specific? Something that works very differently in the UK or in the US than it does in the Czech Republic, if we're talking about store layouts, if we are talking about where you place certain objects?
I think that, I mean, it mentioned in the US, that's a great example, because there, even within one country, you have extremely different customer needs. I mean, the needs of a customer living in a high-rise apartment in New York versus the needs of a customer living in a ranch in Texas are very, very different. So the main thing is that those customers visiting stores in their area should recognize their lives, recognize their living situations. If every room set in New York is the size of a room in a Texas home, it wouldn't make sense. So from that perspective, you should see that reflected in the stores. In terms of the kind of main components of our layout, where we have this showroom experience, where you have the inspiration, you can touch and feel the furniture, you can interact with our co-workers, and then we have the market hall where you can see more of the accessories, etc. That would be very similar in the majority of IKEA stores. But we are testing and trying some new formats in city centres around the world, in Toronto and Paris and London, where
smaller stores,
smaller units, smaller stores that by definition have to have a different layout, because they just don't have the same number of articles, they don't have the same experience. It's for a different customer that's perhaps passing by, not coming to the store in that sense. So those locations are innovation of our concept, which...
You attempted something similar in Prague and it didn't last. Can you tell us why?
That was always, and it was temporary. Before my time, but it was always temporary. It was more just an experience for people in Prague versus a unit that was supposed to be for the long term. So that was it served its purpose. Of course, we're always learning from these test and try, and I think that's built right into the IKEA concept. I mean, we've mentioned a few different components of the IKEA concept and how they come to life. But I think the one thing that's consistent there is the way Ingvar created a spirit of development, of taking risk, of being brave. Like, for example, for me, the clearest example is always this. In the 50s, when IKEA started, it was a catalogue-based company. So we had furniture in the range, but we had a catalogue, and that's how we sold it. And that catalogue went for 70 years, and for many of those years was the biggest commercial publication in the world. When Ingvar decided to build a store, the first store, it was the biggest furniture store in Northern Europe, by far. And he built it in the middle of the forest in Sweden, in the middle of nowhere, because he believed people would come, and they did. But that's a huge, brave decision that he took there. And for me, that continued ever since in the development of the IKEA concept. So there's some things that we hold true, and they're clearly described. But the option to test and try new locations, such as the one in Prague, that's where that allows us to learn more and see what our customers feel about what we do.
You spoke about the IKEA catalog. It was discontinued in 2020, I think, according to my research. Do you miss it? I mean, it's a commodity. It's something that you can hold in your hands. Do you get perhaps some emails from your customers saying that they would like to have it back?
It was very popular. I mean, I won't, I've been in IKEA a long time, and sometimes when I see those old catalogue covers from the start of my time at IKEA, it can be quite nostalgic. But overall, the customers told us that's not what they were looking for the long term. People, of course, have moved to digital options. They wanted us to be better in that space, and the fixed catalogue once a year, locked on paper, it also it prevented us doing some things that we wanted to do for the future to be more flexible.
Because it was costly?
It is costly, but I don't think necessarily that overall it's a cost-saving discussion, because obviously the work that went in the catalogue now goes into the digital spaces and the physical spaces. It's a change of how we reach our customer versus just an elimination of a channel, if you say it that way.
One can find critics as high up as the European Commission, calling the customer and environment friendly image of IKEA a bit of a facade. They're citing problems such as unsustainable wood sourcing, tax optimization. What do you say to such criticism? Because you represent the brand.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the principles that go into how we, for example, source wood, if we use that example, are crystal clear. We work with FSC certified wood. All of our suppliers are expected to adhere to a clear set of principles in the way that we work, and that's not just in the final product, but in our support for people working in those operations and the materials.
But mistakes have happened.
Mistakes will always happen, but for me, what I've always appreciated about those type of topics is the clarity we have on our expectation. It's uncompromising. So when a mistake happens, I think, as you know, and as it may be some of the examples that you've given, we're very open about that. We say we found this and we fixed it.
And the tax optimization scandal, if you will?
I'm less familiar with that example. I mean, obviously, we in the area of responsibility that we have here, we adhere to all of the legal and tax requirements.
Can such a large corporation, although it's not a large corporation, but Inca Group can be called, I guess, a large corporation, can it be fundamentally ethical and sustainable? Is it even possible? Or do certain lapses come with the territory? Because, especially in a world with limited resources.
No, it of course is a good question and an important question. I believe the answer is yes. I believe that it starts with a very clear principle of what it is we're here to do, and our vision of helping people live a better everyday life. It's essential that we also take our responsibility for society, for the planet. So we have extremely clear expectations to be climate positive by 2030. We're on track for that. It's by no means an easy thing to do, as I'm sure most companies would say with whatever direction they're taking. But that is what we will do. And what I've seen over the years is when we have that clarity together as an organisation, the people that I have the luxury to work with, we make it happen. So I believe absolutely we can have a positive impact. And the example I gave within the supply chain, I mean, it's life-changing. If we have these clear expectations, we call it our way, the way that we operate with our suppliers, this changes people's lives, that we are able to support, the transition to better cotton, for example, that's been happening over the years. There was a time before where very high levels of water usage and pesticides and all these different things, and we've eliminated that from our supplier base by working together with our suppliers. I think it's fantastic.
There's also, I guess, a good example of some steps that large companies and corporations have made, and you made the same step. You left Russian and Belarusian markets. How costly was this decision for you, for IKEA?
Russia was very important for IKEA, of course. We had operations there for over 20 years, retail operations.
And it was also where you sourced a lot of your wood.
There was some sourcing, yes, of course. We had 17 stores, thousands of co-workers. I think in the last year, before we made the decision to leave the Russian retail market, it represented around 4% of IKEA or Inca's sales. So,
have you been able to replenish that, so to speak?
Well,
elsewhere?
I mean, of course, that is a big part of our business, but when that happens, of course, it becomes more important that we then look for more opportunities to grow, more opportunities to expand. And I think across Inca, it's been very positive in the way that we've pushed forward, and the business performance goes along with it.
When the situation, or if the situation stabilizes, are you ready to go back?
There are no immediate plans to restart any operations in Russia or Belarus, no.
Your colleagues sent me a short CV of yours, and I found out, or at least they informed me, that you started your journey with IKEA 25 years ago. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much the only serious work experience that you've ever had. How did that happen?
Yeah, that it's more than 25 years ago, actually, now. We have to update that CV. 1996 is when I started with IKEA. I have to figure out how many years that is.
I can't count.
No, it's a long time. I stopped counting after 20. No, for me, it was an interesting start for IKEA. Well, at least I thought it was. So I'd been an IKEA shopper. My mum had taken me to IKEA, one of the London stores, when we needed some stuff for my new room when we moved house. And,
how old were you, just
I was,
to paint a picture?
I think at that early, maybe very early teen, maybe not even. Mm-hmm. So
a boy.
And I still remember what we bought. It's funny, all those years ago. It was one of those big clocks for the wall, and it was amazing. And I'm sure many people, well, I know many people still experience this. When you go to an IKEA for the first time, there's nothing else like that, So it was amazing to me, and I'd kind of kept it in mind, and we've been going back every now and again. But it was quite a long way to get to the store. Well, everywhere's a long way in London, right, with the traffic. So fast forward now to when I was at college looking for a part-time job, I got the news that IKEA was opening much closer to where I lived. And all of my friends, it was that time when we were all applying for jobs. They were all applying.
So it was after uni?
It was while I was at college.
Uh-huh.
So it was just part-time weekend work that we were all looking for, or at least a group of friends. And they were all basically sending applications to any company with a job going. That was the way that it was. I only applied for IKEA. Like, I put all my eggs in one basket and said, well, I remember IKEA. I was super interested in that, and I only want to work there. So I went all in, and then started part-time in the market hall, as we mentioned. And I loved it. I mean, for me, it was fantastic because I got...
What were you doing? Were you, I don't know, putting things in the shelves, or were you helping people with their flat packs? What were you doing?
Back then, it was pretty much everything.
Uh-huh.
it was fun to be multitasking. And one of the reasons that is because the store hadn't opened yet. So we got the chance to really understand IKEA, understand about Ingvar and the culture of the company. And for me, you know, I just fell in love with that and got the opportunity to do lots of different things in the store. A few years later, I'd always had or wanted to work in North America, particularly Canada. And an opportunity came up to work on the West Coast in Calgary. So once I'd figured out on a map where Calgary is, I went on a 1-year project, and basically I've been traveling with IKEA ever since. So that was 2003. And then here we are 20 years later. And
where else have you been?
I've had the chance to, I mean, for me, it's been a real privilege. Travel with IKEA, for those that are interested, is very much encouraged, because of course it's a win-win for us. You know, the individual gets the chance to experience new cultures and new places, and IKEA gets to bring that competence and that way of working and that diversity into different parts of the business. So I spent time in North America, in Calgary, and in the US, in the retail part of the business. Then I went to Sweden to work in our logistical supply chain side for the global organization. And back to Canada again to work in the retail side of the business, and then back again to Sweden, this time working in commercial areas. I also had the chance to establish IKEA's innovation capabilities for the Inca Group. We wanted to build those and have some specific ways of working on how we would approach innovation. And then back to retail, and now finally here to the Czech Republic and Prague. So
what is your favorite place so far? You don't have to say Prague. You're not obliged to say it, but it would be considered rude, perhaps, if you don't. No,
of course, I will say Prague is definitely my favorite. But the thing that you know has been really amazing for me, you know, is the way that I've had these chances to literally travel, you know, 4,000 kilometers to new places. And because of the culture and the values we have at IKEA, and the fact that we bring people like that together, even though you're very, very far away from home, it always felt like being at home. So that's been something that has been consistent in all the places that I've lived, is that feeling of being at home, even though, you know, I'm British and I haven't been for many, many years. So it's been great, but it's been a real pleasure to be here, to learn about the different countries. And of course, Prague is fantastic.
What do you do in your spare time in this large, beautiful city?
Well, you know, it feels like for the first few months, I just walked around looking at how amazing and beautiful Prague was. I mean, it is, if you haven't spent a lot of time here, it is spectacular. I mean, it's very difficult to compare to other places that I've lived before. But I like experiencing the city. I like food, so I spend a lot of time eating Indian and Vietnamese food around Prague. And also, I compete in a sport that only really played by former British countries, called lawn bowling. But I was very, very pleased to discover that there is one lawn bowling club in the whole of this part of Europe, and it's in Prague. So I've been, that's been wonderful to connect with different people from different backgrounds playing that sport.
The way Czechs feel about IKEA can sometimes feel almost religious. Have you experienced the same type of fanaticism anywhere else?
Yes, yeah, it's a
common trait then. Common trait.
I would say. I think that IKEA fans are all over the world, and we do have that love of IKEA. It's different from country to country, or the way it's expressed. I guess I would say that one thing that's always amazed me is that how IKEA shows up even in countries we don't operate. You know, the fact that everywhere I've been,
such as,
well, any country I've been, and I cannot think of an example where this isn't true. Even if we don't operate, I always see someone carrying an IKEA blue bag, always. And whether it's like very practically to move laundry or something, or whether it's a plant pot or a hat they've made of it, the IKEA blue bag is everywhere. It doesn't matter if IKEA is present. So that's always, I always find fascinating. But I guess you'd have to say, if I were to identify one country, Sweden. I mean, it's the home country of IKEA. There is a very, very strong connection between the IKEA principles, you know, simple, affordable design, and the culture of the Swedish people. So I think you have this alignment between the IKEA culture and the Swedish culture that makes it quite special in that country. But you mentioned at the beginning, for sure in the Czech Republic, I mean, since we've opened in 1991, with modest means, one tiny location in a department store, we've grown to this 4 stores we have today and all of these touch points from an omni-channel perspective. And it's been, from the very beginning, Czechs have interacted with IKEA, I would say more than just for the products, come into the store for inspiration or a fun day out or just for a, little bit of happiness. And it's something new still after all these years.
And my last question, have you ever felt like you were cheating on your wife when you bought a sofa or a piece of furniture anywhere else? Do you get a little bit of like bad conscience when you support a different business? Do you get mad that maybe somewhere else the quality is more what you're looking for?
I would say that what I will always do is I would never buy something from somewhere else if we've got something like IKEA that is better, comparable, better. So usually what I'm looking for is things that complement, maybe things that are not in our range or make IKEA products better. I mean, when you work for a brand like IKEA, you always have kind of the IKEA first mindset, and then the other things you would just use to make those things better.
Do you annoy people around you with that same mindset, telling perhaps family members you should have bought IKEA?
I have been known to do that. I think I came into this studio and commented whether this wasn't IKEA, but yeah, I mean, I have known friends that perhaps have bought a kitchen, for example, somewhere else, and that I cannot get my head around. Like I have to tell them, the quality of the IKEA kitchen, the price point, the flexibility, the design, you do not have to go anywhere else. I mean, you really don't. And that if I can catch someone early on in the process where maybe they're considering somewhere else, I will happily share that with them.
And convert them.
I will try. Yeah, I will try.
Thank you for being our guest.
No problem. It's great to be here.
A my se těšíme s dalším hostem za 2 týdny. Nezapomeňte se dívat na blesk.cz, sledujte nás také na našem účtu na sociální síti X a nebo si nás pusťte jako podcast na Spotify. Na viděnou.